But right now, an important subject that you should listen to closely. Everyone gets hacked. And don't think that it won't happen to you, because sometimes it happens to you and you don't even know it. So you need a response plan. Hear from Securus to help you with that plan. Michael Legary, welcome.
Thank you.
So there's a few things that we need to get to today when it comes to online safety. But first, this is the very important one, top of mind. Everyone gets hacked. Sometimes you don't know it. You need a response plan.
Absolutely. It's becoming a really big challenge now where the amount of information people have online, and specifically the number of, say, email accounts, application accounts, iPhone, and whatever other types of accounts, the average person has over 24 different types of username and passwords online now. And at any one point in time, if one of those gets hacked, you may not even realize that your password's been leaked. And unfortunately, a lot of people share the same passwords or have a common one they use for certain sites. And, even without them realizing it, somebody might actually have their legitimate username and password. They're logging in as them, and you never know. So it's one of those things where we went from having a hack be something you could easily tell this happened to you, there was identity theft or something direct, to now it's very quiet. And it may have occurred weeks, months, or even years in the past where somebody's using your information online, waiting to take advantage of you or the information you have.
Are there people who actually go out and gather this information, hack a bunch of people, and have it almost on reserve, and then you'll feel the effects of this later on?
Yes. So one major standard technique both security researchers and attackers have online is whenever there's a large public breach of usernames and passwords, the user database sometimes gets leaked. So they'll take a copy of that, and they'll have your usernames or emails and a hash of the password, or even potentially the password that was used. And they'll store that and sit on it. And when attackers try logging into your system, they'll try one of the passwords that they might have had from another site that had your username and leaked it. So we see it a lot where people are having their accounts logged into legitimately because the attacker knows their password because they found it elsewhere on the internet.
So I've heard that when you have multiple accounts, what you really need to do in order to remember your passwords is, let's say your password is the worst one of all, password. And this is a password you have with, let's say, Royal Bank. So you would write password RB. And then if it's your Facebook account, password FB. If it's Twitter, password TW. So then that might not be the good idea of a way to create multiple passwords, because if they're looking through this hash of passwords you have, then they'll just know to add whatever type of suffix.
Yeah. The unfortunate thing is there's dozens of opinions of what makes a good password or a great password. Unfortunately, from a technology point of view, the day of the password is over. They're all weak. They're all incredibly weak from an attacker standpoint and from a technology standpoint. So
could I please stop with the capital letters and the numbers and the this and that, because I can't even remember my own passwords anymore.
Well, there's so much choice. Unfortunately, right now, you still got to put up with some of that nonsense. But the biggest things to keep in mind nowadays, you got to change your password often, and often it could be at least twice a year. Preferably 3 to 4 times a year if you can put up with yourself. But having a constantly changing password makes it harder for the attacker. So if you have any pattern that can help you remember it, that's good. But the key thing is now a lot of folks like Facebook and Google, from an application perspective, have two-factor authentication, where you type in your username and password, and then it sends you an SMS message or an email to type in a one-time code. And that helps prevent, regardless of an attacker gets your password, they have to get your cell phone or your email.
Which you recommended. You came here last time because I was hacked on Twitter, and it seemed as though every time I was switching my password, the person knew exactly what I was changing my password to, and then they were getting in again. So you gave me the recommendation. I covered up the camera on my computer because I was paranoid at that point that they could be watching what I was doing, and also the two-step verification process, which now I've got to make sure when I'm on my laptop that my phone is next to me all the time, because then I'm getting the text message with the code that I have to enter to get in.
Yeah. And like I say, in the next 3 to 5 years, that's going to be commonplace. Instead of a password, we're going to have different types of authentication on the phone, on a device that's with you all the time, and preferably even something like going back to biometrics, fingerprints and retinas and just even voice patterns. Something that we are will be used instead of something we know. And two-factor or three-factor is going to be the way to go. The more, instead of just a password that anyone could have, the more it looks at who we are, the safer we will become.
So the future is us spending 23 hours of our day logging into our different accounts.
Preferably not.
Verification
That's
process.
sort of the short term. Like right now, you look at, say the iPhone 5S, has the password, the fingerprint scanner for a password on the phone. It's not perfect, but it's something different. It's more unique, more complex than a standard password. Can be broken, but it's just another layer of security. So it's not about trying to take up more time. It's taking one bad step and trying to make it into 2 or 3 simpler steps.
Michael Legary is from Securus, and he's telling you how to protect yourself, because you could even be hacked right now and not even know it. I want to find out how you would know you've been hacked. Even if you don't know you've been hacked, this almost sounds like an Abbott and Costello skit with Michael Legary coming up. Michael Legary is ahead of me. He already knows what you need to know, and he's going to give you that information. He's from Securus, and we're talking about getting hacked. You could be hacked and not even know it, and you need a response plan for this. So when we're talking about getting hacked and not even know it, how can you figure it out at that point?
Often there's a couple telltale things on your computer that can tell if somebody's been there other than you. And the first stop is to look at your web browser nowadays. So is your web browser up to date? Are there any type of third-party applications or widgets or add-ons that you don't know or don't understand? And, just like anything in your daily life, if the computer is acting slow or funny or different than usual, it's a good thing to do is download an antivirus scanner, make sure it's up to date, and
even
check.
On a Mac?
Even on a Mac. On any kind of device. Heck, your phone nowadays, too. You can get antivirus and anti-malware applications for any flavor of phone now. And if you think something's wrong, check. And preferably check on a regular basis. For your web browser, make sure it's up to date at least once a month. Because that's when somebody gets in nowadays from an automation point of view, an attacker or I'll use the word robot online, tricks your computer into doing something, it's often because of an issue that exists on the system itself. So the web browser's old, it knows how to get in, and it breaks in.
35% of people, I think, right now are using Windows XP, which is about to expire Tuesday.
Yeah.
So they could be at further risk for stuff like this because they're not going to be protected.
Absolutely. The clock is ticking for them, where the updates that have been slowing down over the last couple of years for Windows XP are going to stop. And now, as a new vulnerability is found, Microsoft is not producing an update. So now, when somebody decides to use that exploit, to use that trick, then they may never even realize that they've been hacked. Their ability to find out, their ability to detect it, may be entirely gone, or they're reliant on that third-party antivirus or malware stuff to check it out and see what's going on. But they're in a bad position. They should move on to a new computer.
Does it matter to you if it's a Mac or Windows?
Not at all. They have the same. There's pluses and minuses. They can all be hacked. It's just about what you're comfortable with. And
it will be less often
update.
with a Mac.
It used to be. Nowadays, it's the.
You're not making me feel any more comfortable.
No,
here.
that's it.
I'm a Mac girl.
The challenge a lot of people have had is, you go, depending on how old you are, you go back to the 80s. Well, no one had antivirus. Now, in the 90s, we knew we had to have an antivirus in our Windows box, and Mac was great. Well, Mac and our phones and all these things, they're all computers. They all have the same problems. They're all the same stuff. So you got to treat them all the same. Antivirus, check your settings, clear up your web browser, web cache, privacy settings, and just make sure that no matter what device you're using, you understand how to make yourself secure on it.
1:48 at CJOB, coming up to the news at 2 with Brett McGarry. He'll update you with everything you need to know. Right now, updating you with everything you need to know about getting hacked, even when you don't know it. From Securus, Michael Legary and I are having a conversation. So part of your response plan, the different steps to authenticate your password, so you want to go through that 2-tier program. The other thing that you're talking about is updating your software, updating your browser, getting yourself prepared to, in case of an attack. And the next thing that you would recommend?
Is the concept of calling it unpersonalizing your system. Now, as a Mac user, a lot of folks realize this when you buy a new Apple computer or device. One of the first things you do is you type in your name. Mm-hmm. Right? Michael Legary's computer or Michael Legary's laptop.
I don't do that. I give my computer a name.
Excellent.
That's because I'm weird, not because I'm smart.
Right now we can personalize all these devices. We can put our personal information on, emails, addresses, contact information, and by default, a Windows and an Apple computer will actually broadcast that name out on a local network. Seems innocuous, but when you go to a hotel and you connect your computer in, you can actually see, Michael Legary's laptop and, Brett Wilson's laptop.
Seen that.
And it's so simplistic, but the challenge is I might know how to do it, but Grandma definitely doesn't know how to do it. And so it's not making sure people understand that you don't put your personal information on a device just because it asks. Why does it want it? And unpersonalize your computer wherever possible. Don't use a real name, use initials, use a half name, whatever. So if that information gets leaked, people can't use it to identify you. And it's little things like that. That's not even a trick. It's just something that's standard on a configuration in the computer. Can be used to help, I don't use the word help, but can be used in a cyberbullying or a stalking case where, are you in the same hotel as a person or the same room, same wireless access point?
Well, it seems as though people are getting apps nowadays that are telling everybody where they are. If you look at Foursquare, I'm the mayor of CJOB right now, right? So people are giving you information. This is where I am. This is what I'm doing. So you're saying, why in the world are you on Foursquare when I'm telling you not even to give your computer any personalization?
Yeah, and there's valid reasons to share that information, but ask yourself. So if people know I'm not home right now, is my house safe? If I'm not with my children, are my children safe? And again, not to be paranoid, but on the other hand, just make the decision, make a real decision to give that information up, and hopefully it has value. You're not just sharing things for fun, that it's meaningful to the people around you or to yourself. So it's about making a choice instead of just giving it up and not planning for what could happen next.
When looking at our online security with Michael Legary from Securus, good name, by the way, when we're looking at this right now, there's something going on with the government with a bill that was originally introduced as Protecting Children from Internet Predators Act, and now it's changed into Protecting Canadians from Online Crime Act. But this could end up giving the government more access into what we put online?
Yes. Yeah, so the key that created the bill was a lot to do with cyberbullying, making sure that there was additional recourses for folks who had been stalked or bullied online. There was a lot of good information and good recommendation process regarding, say, illicit images, illegal images that people are sharing online, and what kind of investigations could occur. But also in the bill, it has, wider types of information gathering for law enforcement for other purposes, financial investigations and other. So it's not just about cyberbullying anymore. It's a wider, I call it a wider investigation tool to help look at cybercrime overall. And the key thing from a citizen perspective is it's not just cyberbullying, it's all this other stuff. We should know about it.
It could track our movements when we step out of the house using our phones or even external tracking devices.
Yes. So it removes, say, one of the issues is that it changes where a warrant is required for what kinds of detailed information about us.
The bigger question is, would this then open us up to hackers who are hacking into the government?
The short answer is no. The long answer is yes, but. All right, so the government actually tracks a modest amount of information about what we're doing online, and really for more mundane reasons than people would think. Like, it costs money to store all this information. We have to pay you have to pay people to monitor all this stuff, and we're Canada. we don't have the same money that, say, the NSA has from a budget for monitoring folks. But that being said, we should be more than aware of what we're giving up, and what we're allowing the government to do. And thankfully, it's we're usually making the choice to give it up more than somebody's coming and taking it from us. So that information that's online is primarily there because we've made the choice to put it there or to turn on our location services on our phone and to give it up. So it's a little bit less about the government and more about us.
It's very interesting what you're pointing out right now, because we have a lot of people who are upset about this new proposal by the government. But at the same time, if you were to go through their internet security, you'd probably find so many flaws with it, and they don't have their two-step authentication processes and stuff like that.
Absolutely. No, for me, like there's a certain limit. We want to make sure government's handling things appropriately for all different kinds of topics. But the key thing in my mind is, are they demanding that I do something or give up information that I wouldn't have otherwise? And in the bill, actually, there's none of that. If you've offered it up, they're willing to take it. It's actually not telling us to have location services turned on our phone all the time, which would be a very different subject, and I think a lot of folks would be scared about if the government's demanding that we get tracked, and that's just not the case in the bill right now.
So it's hilarious then, because so many people are against this. Meanwhile, they're not protecting themselves online, and they're giving the government their information.
That's it. Think about it, limit it, and make use of that while you can. Because what's funny is when people think of the future, something as simple as, right now Facebook has the ability to identify different types of people in your pictures.
Yes.
So is it your brother in the picture with you, your husband or wife? And now think 10 years into the future. Based on the information you've put out today, there's a lot of things that computers will be able to guess about who you are and what you do in the future that you never even said directly, but they can infer. And that's what gets really scary.
That for another topic. I'm looking forward to that one with Michael Legary from Securus. If people want to get in touch with you, how can they find you?
The best is online, Securus and Michael Legary. You search on Google, you'll find my email address and contact information.
You can also search on my show page, cjob.com/Dahlia. Change your passwords. Thank you so much for coming in today.
Pleasure.
After 2 o'clock, Chantal Kriviazik.
Dahlia. On 680 CJOB.
What is